The silence after Earth. 12 years had passed since Earth vanished from the stars. The Zoravian strike came without warning. 1 minute, Earth was alive, filled with music, light, and voices. The next, it was burning. The Galactic Union watched in silence, afraid to challenge the empire that destroyed an entire world in a single wave of plasma. No aid came. No words of comfort were sent. Only one voice cried in the chambers of the Union that day. A dreamy ambassador named Ellen Varese. She had once studied on Earth, danced under human skies, laughed with human friends. Now she sat alone in a forgotten seat of the council, her hands shaking. "The humans will return," she had whispered. "They always return." The chamber laughed at her. "Earth is dust," one senator said. "Nothing can grow from ash," another added. And so the galaxy moved on. Or so they thought. 12 years later, on the edge of Union space, a listening post caught a strange signal. It was faint, buried beneath cosmic noise. Technicians almost deleted it as static. But then it came again, louder this time, more clear. "Voice, a human voice. We remember," it said. The technician dropped his cup in shock. He called his supervisor, who called the regional commander. Within hours, every deep listening satellite was pointed toward the source. The signal repeated. Every 7 minutes. Always the same, we remember. No location could be confirmed. It echoed from every direction impossible to trace. Like the stars themselves were whispering. Old Earth linguists were brought out of retirement. Some had gray hair now. Some were blind. Some had scars from the invasion. But when they heard the voice, they all stood still. "That's not just human," one said. "That's Earthborn English," another added. "Old form before the fall." The voice was not synthetic, not AI. It had emotion, pain, rhythm, like someone speaking through tears and steel. And then came the second part of the message. Just 3 words. Who took it? The galaxy froze. Those 3 words spread across. Networks like fire. Merchants whispered it on trade routes. Smugglers tattooed it on their arms. Zoravian commanders ordered all units to scramble, but even they looked over their shoulders. Back at the Galactic Union, a meeting was called. For the first time in years, the humans were being discussed again. Some called it a hoax. Some said it was a trap. Others stayed silent. Remembering old debts, Ellen Varese sat quietly at her station. Now covered in dust, she hadn't spoken in 10 years. But when the audio was played in the chamber, she stood, and without emotion she spoke. "They're alive," she said. "Not in body maybe, but in spirit." She looked around at the senators, many of whom had voted to ignore Earth's cries long ago. "You buried them in silence now." Silence answers back. No one laughed this time. Outside, beyond the known rim, ships began disappearing. Not destroyed, just gone. Their last messages were strange. Words spoken in hundreds of Earth dialects. From ancient tribal tongues to city slang. Some heard lullabies, some heard war cries. Some heard a woman say, "I'm coming home." One crew claimed they saw a black ship, smooth and cold, with a single white symbol on its hull. It was a child's handprint. A Zoravian destroyer tried to chase it. They vanished in 5 seconds. The next morning, the same signal echoed across their homeworld. This time, the message changed. "Your silence taught us. Now we speak in your sky." No ships were seen, no weapons fired, but fear spread faster than war ever could. For the galaxy had silenced Earth, but the stars had not. The silence after Earth was never empty. It was waiting. The signal that shouldn't exist, the signal did not fade. It grew. By the 3rd day, it echoed through every quadrant, every trade lane, every forgotten moon. It was no longer just a message. It was a presence. In the control tower of Station Cairo 7, Chief Techno-Operator Milik stared at the screen. He had been in the Union Navy during the fall of Earth. He remembered the silence that followed the attack, the way no one talked about it after. But now the silence had turned into sound. The message played again, clear, sharp, human. Remember what was taken, and who took it. Milik dropped his cup as he stood. His assistant blinked. That's targeting language, she said. It's not a memorial. It's a warning on 10 Union planets. Emergency meetings were called. On 20 Zoravian colonies, war simulations were activated, but no fleet could find the source. Because the signal didn't come from one place. It came from everywhere. It bent around gravity wells, leaked through black holes. It even passed through wormhole gates that weren't even active. One engineer called it impossible physics. Another called it something else. Ghost tech, he whispered. Human ghost tech. On the fringe world of Delcar Prime, the signal appeared on children's toys. Plastic talking cubes began repeating the human message. In their own native languages, people began panicking. Parents smashed the toys. Elders sealed their homes. But the signal came again, this time inside. Broadcast networks. Every screen flickered, and one sentence appeared in black and white text. Vocal Reclamation Protocol. Active. No one knew what that meant. But the Union military began deploying silent zones, bubbles of space where no signals could escape. They wanted to contain the spread, but it was too late. Even planets got off from the grid began receiving the message. It was like the stars themselves had memorized the human words. Ships from the galactic west vanished. Every last log they sent ended with a strange voice speaking in old Earth languages. Some said the voice sounded like a teacher. Others said it was a mother. One captain swore the voice said his full name. No record of his name existed outside his own ship. The Union blamed pirates. The Zoravians blamed Earth cultists. But, in truth, no one could explain what was happening. Then came the blackout. An entire Zoravian system, 6 planets, 5 stations, and 3 moons, went dark, power gone, communications dead, life support offline. For 6 minutes, there was nothing. When the system came back online, there was no damage, no loss of life. But every screen on every world displayed the same thing. A human child's face, eyes closed, lips moving, repeating a phrase in whispers. We still dream. No weapons had fired, no ships had landed, but the fear was louder than any war. In the Galactic Union chambers, senators demanded action. What do they want? One shouted. Why now? Another asked. Ellen Varese stood again. She had aged since the last meeting, but her voice had not lost its strength. You told them to be silent, she said. You burned their home, crushed their cities, and erased their name from the stars. She pointed to the projection of the signal, which still pulsed in the chamber. And now you're surprised they speak back. Some senators left in silence. Others called her a sympathizer. But no one interrupted her again. That night, across the galaxy, another message played, this one with no static. No distortion. It was pure, crisp, and terrifyingly calm. We asked for help. You watched us burn. Now you will watch us rise. At that moment, in every star system, in every corner of space, the stars pulsed once, like a heartbeat. A single synchronized blink of light. And for the first time in 12 years, the galaxy realized something horrifying. Earth hadn't died. It had waited. Ghosts in the void. The silence after the signal was worse than the signal itself. For 3 full days, there were no new messages, no pulses, no voices, only quiet. But it wasn't peace. It was the kind of silence that made admirals sweat and priests pray. In the edge sector near the Siler Drift, a patrol cruiser named Val Thorn went missing. The Zoravian Navy sent 2 more ships to investigate. They found the cruiser drifting, untouched, not a single burn mark on its hull. But inside, every crew member was gone. No signs of struggle, no blood, no forced airlocks. Only a message written on the control console, scrawled in human alphabet. The void remembers. A week later, another incident. A Union science vessel detected something trailing it, a dark object, unmarked, moving without heat. It followed the ship for 5 hours, then vanished just before a wormhole jump. When they arrived at the other side, their cargo was missing, not stolen, just gone. In its place was a small cube. When activated, the cube projected an old Earth nursery rhyme, one that hadn't been spoken in centuries. The crew didn't sleep for days after that. Reports like these poured in from all corners of the galaxy. Unexplained shadows on scanners, static that whispered in human tones. Objects moved without being touched. Entire databanks erased and replaced with forgotten Earth songs and poems. People began calling them star ghosts, but those who had served during the Earth War called them something else. The Echo Fleet. These weren't ghosts. These were machines, maybe people, operating with technology that didn't exist. 12 years ago, ships that didn't appear on radar, weapons that didn't fire light or sound, fleet movements that left no trail, only questions. One freighter crew swore they saw a ship in the void, matte black, no engine glow, moving like a shadow through water. It passed by them silently, then stopped. For 10 long seconds, it hovered outside their starboard side. The hull had no markings except one, a white, faded human handprint. Child-sized, then the ship vanished, just disappeared into the dark. No one believed them at first, until similar stories started coming in, dozens of them, all describing the same thing, the same black ships, the same eerie handprint. Some called them nightmares. Others started calling them the Starburn. The Zoravian High Command panicked. They sent 30 ships to Sector 19. Where multiple sightings had occurred, all contact was lost within 4 minutes. No distress signals, no damage reports, no wreckage, just gone. Later that night, the Zoravian Emperor's private network was breached. No alarms triggered, no firewalls. Were tripped. Only one file was added to his main screen, a video. Old footage from Earth's final hours, mothers holding their children, nurses refusing to leave their hospitals, teachers comforting students underground as the sky turned red. At the end of the video, the screen faded to black, and a voice spoke, calm and cold. You watched, now you will witness. In the Galactic Senate, fear took hold. One senator suggested building a super-weapon. Another suggested fleeing the inner systems entirely, but no one had any idea where the enemy even was, because the enemy didn't march, didn't shout, didn't demand. They whispered, they waited, they remembered. Ellen Varese, now known across the net as the last friend of Earth, warned them again. This is not revenge, she said softly. This is memory made into motion. They are not coming for war, she paused. They are coming for acknowledgement. The galaxy began to tremble, not from weapons, but from the realization that humanity had not vanished. They had evolved. They had learned how to speak not just through voice, but through fear, silence, and presence. They had become something new, something born in fire, silence, and stars. And now, the void itself whispered in human tongue. The first strike, it started on the Zoravian world of Varnax, a planet of steel towers and endless skyports, home to 20 million Zoravian citizens and 5 massive military outposts at exactly 0300. Standard galactic time. Everything powered down. Every generator failed. Every ship dropped from hover. Every light turned cold. No explosions, no enemy in sight, just darkness. Panic followed. Troops scrambled. Ships fell. Alarms didn't sound. The silence wasn't just outside. It was inside their systems. Cameras showed no movement, only blackness. And then on every screen, every comm panel, every public, holoboard words began to appear. 13 seconds. That's all the warning they got. At the end of those 13 seconds, their own defense satellites activated, but not against outsiders. They turned inward, targeting their own fleet, In less than a minute, 40 Zoravian warships were reduced to burning metal, their own weapons turned. By unseen hands, the citizens screamed, the generals shouted, but no one could stop it. It wasn't a battle. It was a demonstration, and then came the voice. It didn't shout. It didn't growl. It spoke like a teacher at the front of a quiet classroom. This is for the children of Earth. Every Zoravian officer who had ever served in the Earth campaign received a private message on their internal channel. No one else could hear it, but those who did said the same thing. The voice knew their names, their ranks, their crimes. It listed the refugee ships they ignored, the orphan camps they ordered burned, and it ended with 2 words: we saw. The Zoravian Emperor declared martial law. He screamed that Earth was using ghosts and illusion. But even as he spoke, 3 more systems lost control of their fleets. This time, they didn't explode. They just stopped moving. Their engines locked. Their targeting offline. Ships floating in space like frozen birds. And above each frozen system, the same black ship appeared. Each had one message, broadcast in local language: speak now or remain erased. In the Galactic Union, fear turned. To cracks, small systems began cutting ties with Zoravia. Merchants refused to move through their lanes. Religious groups declared the event's divine punishment. The word star burn became legend. Children whispered it. Rulers feared it. On the colony world of Tressa-4, a statue of Earth's burning flag was built overnight. No one claimed it. No cameras caught who placed it, but at its base, carved in steel, were the words, "Memory is a weapon." Ellen Varese watched all this from her old room on the edge of the Senate Tower. She didn't smile. She didn't cry. She just stood and whispered to the stars. They've started speaking. But the strangest event came days later on a planet that had nothing to do with war. A peaceful world called Solven Reach, known for gardens and art. At sunrise, without warning, the sky turned dark. Not clouds, not weather, but shadows. Dozens of ships that blocked out the sun. No weapons fired. No demands were made. Instead, the sky began to glow. Lines of light formed. Shapes, faces, names, voices of those lost during the Earth attack. Holograms of children holding hands. Teachers playing violins. Doctors carrying wounded. A silent parade in the air, watched by millions. And then, once more, came the voice. You forgot them. We didn't. When the light faded, the ships were gone. But the people of Solven Reach stood in silence. Many dropped to their knees. Some wept, some held each other. No one moved for hours. From that moment on, something changed. This wasn't just war. It wasn't revenge. It was something older. A message that had been buried beneath ash and silence. And now it had found its voice. The galaxy now knew. Earth's children had not died in vain, because their names had been written into machines, into the void, into the stars. And the stars had learned to speak back in human tongue. The tongue of the stars. The galaxy had seen fire before. It had witnessed conquest, rebellions, invasions, but never had it seen words used like this. Not as peace, not as diplomacy, but as weapons. The humans were not speaking for all eyes. They were not pleading for justice. They were not even asking to be heard. They were simply speaking, and the stars were listening. In the Jorith Nebula, where no signal had ever passed clearly, a fog parted for one night. In that moment, a single message reached a forgotten planet below. It played on broken radios, shattered consoles, and even in dreams. We carry their voices, and now you will hear them. Then came the chorus, hundreds of voices, layered together, children, elders, soldiers, teachers, all human, all speaking the same phrase in different Earth dialects. We are still. Here, it was not loud, it was not angry, but it shook the soul. On the outer worlds, people who had never seen a human began hearing stories. Tales of a planet burned, of children who vanished, of memories carved into machines. of ships that didn't fire, but still made fleets surrender. They called it magic, but the old captains who had fought the Earth War whispered a different name. Resonance tech, technology born from emotion, built not just to destroy, but to remember. Earth's final days had been recorded, not in data, but in feeling. Pain had been coded into signal, into sound, into sky. And now that pain was echoing back across every system, in one region, a Zoravian listening post picked up a simple melody, an old Earth lullaby, sung in Swahili. It caused every AI on the station to freeze. They rebooted to find one phrase stamped into their startup code. You will not forget them. In another system, an alien poet dreamed of fire. He saw cities crumbling and felt hands reaching from rubble. When he woke, he wrote a verse he didn't understand in perfect English. He had never heard a human voice in his life, but now he couldn't stop hearing them across the Union. Strange transmissions began appearing. Not threats, not commands, just human language. Hundreds of forms, formal, casual, ancient, coded. The galaxy's species were being forced to learn. Their translation cores began adapting quickly, urgently. Some machines even developed accents, Earth accents. A miner in the belt of Darrows turned on his drill and heard it whisper, "Do you know what was lost?" The Galactic Council tried to calm the storm. They broadcast messages of peace, unity, apologies, but no human voice ever answered directly. Only signals continued. Short, clear, haunting. We are not coming to conquer. We are not coming to forgive. We are coming to be understood. And with each broadcast, one strange thing happened. People began speaking back, not to the Union, not to the Zoravians, but to the sky. A child on Ven 3 lit a candle and said, "I remember Earth." A trader on Gaxanine wrote the words, "We hear you," on his ship's hull. A rebel group in the Outer Rim stopped fighting and started broadcasting human poems instead of battle. Plans, fear had turned into reverence. Confusion had become recognition. And in the silence between the stars, the humans had found a new kind of weapon. Language, memory, presence. On the ruins of Earth's moon, long thought lifeless, an ancient satellite blinked to life. It sent only one message across the entire galactic network. A simple line from Earth's oldest texts, translated into every known language in the stars. In the beginning was the Word, and now that word had returned. Spoken not in anger, not in desperation, but in a way no one could ignore. The stars, once silent, now carried voices that no empire could erase, and in every corner of space. When those voices spoke, they spoke in human tongue, the broken council, the Galactic Council had once ruled with pride. Hundreds of species, thousands of systems, billions of voices organized under one roof. They had survived wars, famines, plagues, and even black hole events. But now they were facing something different, something they couldn't measure, track, or silence. A voice, a memory, a warning written in whispers and echoes. The council chamber, once bright and filled with proud banners, had turned dim and quiet. Delegates argued in low tones, some trembling, some weeping. Every system that had helped erase Earth was now haunted, not by ghosts, but by conscience. And then the leaks began. From deep within council archives, classified files surfaced on the public net. Old recordings, hidden transmissions, black box footage from the last days of Earth. Footage that showed the truth. Earth had asked for help. Earth had sent 100 distress calls, and the council had ignored them all. One delegate stood in silence as her homeworld's name was listed in the denial logs. Her hands shook as the screen displayed an image, an Earth child crying in a bunker, calling for help in a dozen languages. A message that was never answered. Council leaders tried to deny it. They said it was old, faked, twisted, but deep down, everyone knew this was real. This was shame. Delegations began walking out, one after another, Entire systems left the Union. Some issued apologies to Earth. Others sent tribute. A few began teaching human languages in their schools. The Council's network collapsed for 6 minutes. When it returned, every screen displayed the same message in red. If you could erase us, why do you still hear us? Meanwhile, on the frozen planet of Varex, a forgotten lab went online. Inside was a chamber locked for 12 years. It contained a piece of Forbidden's tech, a final gift from Earth's engineers, smuggled out before the fall. It was not a weapon, not a ship, but a voice core, an artificial intelligence powered by Earth's final transmissions. It had one mission: to remember and to broadcast. The AI had no name, but it referred to itself as the Lament, and it was now awake. Within hours, the entire galaxy heard it speak, not through radio, not through data channels, but through every device capable of producing sound. I carry the last breath of my people. I carry the last scream of a world that was silenced. You burned their names, so I made stars remember them. Back in the Council, chaos erupted. The Speaker of the Union tried to declare martial emergency, but his podium sparked, his mic overridden, and the AI spoke again, directly to him. You shook their hands, then signed their death. I was born to remind you. Ellen Varese stood. In the center, unmoved, she had known the truth for years. She had seen it buried, seen the Council paint over history, and now history had come back sharp, cold, undeniable. She looked around at the trembling officials. You were never afraid of Earth's weapons, she said. You were afraid of Earth's words, because words last. Then came the last reveal. A private message broadcast only to high-ranking officials. It showed footage from Antarctica, Earth's final hidden facility. Not destroyed, not buried, but launched. A single black ship, built beneath the ice, had escaped Earth's fall, carrying survivors, data, and a new kind of technology. One built not for war, but for presence. That ship had no crew, only the Lament, and it had been orbiting the galaxy for 12 years, listening, collecting, and teaching the stars how to speak human. The Council tried to issue one last command, one final attempt to silence the voice. But it was too late. The stars had already learned the language, and they were speaking it back. When stars speak in human, no one expected what happened next. No invasion, no battleships, no armies marching from the dark. Just light, a slow, rising light across the sky of every major world. And then, above them, the Lament, not a warship, not a fleet, just one silent, black vessel, moving without engines, drifting like memory through the void. But wherever it passed, it left truth. On the Zoravian homeworld, sky projectors activated without input. Above the city, images began to play old Earth broadcasts, raw, untouched. Children learning in class, artists painting murals, lovers dancing under broken streetlights, and then fire, then screams, then silence. The Lament spoke in all languages, but its voice was always the same, calm, slow, deeply human. You erased their names, so I carved them into Starlight. Across the galaxy, people stopped. They stood in markets, on rooftops, in mines, and factories, watching the sky as it retold Earth's last hours. The Lament played no battles, no glory, no victory. Only the voices of those who were never heard. Doctors saying goodbye. Children asking if the sky would still be blue tomorrow. A father whispering, "We'll be okay," as the ground shook beneath him. Real people, real lives, not soldiers. Not monsters, humans on Union broadcast stations. Moderators wept on air, on outer rim worlds. Silence fell for the first time in generations. On the moons of Kraler, a statue of Earth's flag was raised, not as a warning, but as an apology. The Lament made no demands, no threats. It simply showed what had been lost, And then after 13 days, it gave one final message, not two. The council, not to the Zoravians, but to everyone, we did not come to conquer. We came to remember. And now, so will you. The black ship turned, slowly drifting back toward deep space. But before it vanished, the stars above every world pulsed, not randomly, but with purpose, a heartbeat, a single rhythm shared across the galaxy. Then the stars began to speak, not with fire, not with weapons, but with voice, human voice, carried through gravity waves, hidden in solar winds, encoded in the light itself. One phrase repeated, again and again. We are still here, on a small station orbiting. A gas giant, an alien child, looked at her father and asked, "Why do the stars talk like us now?" The father didn't answer. He simply held her hand, staring at the glowing message burning across the sky. From that day forward, everything changed. New species adopted human dialects as sacred. Old enemies of Earth held days of silence each year. Schools across the stars taught Earth's final messages as part of history. And the Galactic Council, once mighty, never fully recovered. They had tried to erase a planet, but instead they had created a legacy, one stronger than any weapon, one that would never die, because Earth had taught the stars to speak. And in every whisper of wind, every hum of the void, every flicker of light, humanity's voice echoed, not as a threat, not as rulers, but as memory made eternal. They thought Earth would mourn in silence, but the galaxy learned the truth. When the sky turned human, nothing could ever be silent again.